I'll have the gluten-free bread. Don't worry, you don't have to change your gloves. I was reading a story here about having to change gloves, which caused me to remember this story of mine. As with most stories here, I'm on mobile, so please forgive the formatting. Back during my college days, I worked on the on-campus dining hall as a student worker. We got assigned to various positions there for that particular shift. I liked working at the deli corner. I had fun talking to my coworker and taking to the customers as I made their sandwiches. It was fun. At the deli corner, the dining hall actually had special gluten-free breads and options for those that wanted a sandwich, but obviously couldn't have the normal bread options. In this case, I would need to wash my hands very thoroughly and change my gloves before proceeding with the order. This was to protect those that needed to have gluten-free options. Everything was fine and dandy for a very long while. But then, a new health craze began to catch on quickly. Gluten-free was healthier. Instead of getting 3 people per shift asking for gluten-free options, I would now get maybe 15 to 20 people per shift. The malicious compliance, I couldn't ask people about whether they needed gluten-free or was doing it because they could. But, without fail, whenever someone mentioned that they wanted the gluten-free option, I immediately went to wash my hands and take up precious time that they had for their meal. Overall, about 1 to 2 extra minutes. The people stood there confused for the first couple of times this happened, and they didn't like it. When they realized what was happening, they would make their order and then state they didn't need me to change my gloves. I could just make their sandwich. Upon hearing this, I smiled and informed the person exactly why I needed to wash my hands and change my gloves, and then go through with it. I took up more of their precious time than before. Ultimately, no one ever yelled at me nor got me in trouble. After all, I was following protocol. They would just sigh and look down in defeat and continue with their order. I know this isn't the most malicious compliance out there, but I did take great joy in following this protocol. Edit. Just to clarify, and reiterate what some people have already said in the comments below. The issue was that of cross-contamination. Sure, the people who wanted the gluten-free bread and gave me permission to not wash my hands and change my gloves were not considering those who couldn't eat gluten at all in any amount. The gluten-free stash of deli materials were meant to be separate, and we could guarantee that no traces of gluten were there because of our diligence. My washing of my hands and changing of my gloves weren't for the benefit of those who chose the gluten-free option. It was for the benefit of those who needed gluten-free options. I'm not celiac. I am allergic to wheat. Apparently one of the servers at the restaurant I ate at while working a conference didn't believe me, or didn't understand what I said. It took me 10 days to recover from the wheat contamination. So thank you, Op, for your diligence. I for one appreciate it. Honestly, I don't mind the fad. While it was annoying that people were so full of shit about it, it allowed the market to capitalize on it, making a wider selection of foods which were GF for those that needed it, and now there are sections dedicated to it in a lot of shops. I'll wait 5 minutes for someone to wash their hands so I don't shit blood for 3 days. Also see FODMAP comment. That's not MC. It's care. My fiance has celiac disease, and we know the pain. Thank you for your attention to detail so folks like him don't get sick. Heart. As a relatively new celiac, I appreciate your care and attentiveness. Cross-contamination is a huge issue with celiacs, and it takes the equivalent of only about 15 to 20 grains of salt worth of breadcrumbs to cause issues. I know of a number of places When you ask for gluten-free, we'll ask if it's a preference or medical and will adapt their procedures based on that. On behalf of a friend whose anaphylaxis level allergic to wheat, thank you. I mean, there's also a whole thing of cross-contamination. Sure, you don't need me to change my gloves. But while grabbing your bread out with my gluten hands, I'll touch all the other bread. And the next guy who gets it gets to die. I used to work at Subway. And we used fresh gloves every time we had a gluten-free wrap. The only time we might not use fresh gloves as if they're getting like 3 other things and they specifically say so. And even then we had to use fresh gloves to get the bread out. I loved the late-night host who asked people about gluten. Are you gluten-free? Of course. It's bad for you. So you researched it? Yes. Okay. What is gluten? Quote. They had no fucking clue what gluten was. Just that, it's bad. It's not. And, gluten-free is healthier. Quote. It's not. It's not for the people eating gluten-free as preference. It's for the people eating that way out of necessity. Can't be contaminating their bread with unclean hands just because Trendy Sue wants some too. Good for you. Op. I'm allergic to peanuts in the way where if your great-grandfather had a picture of a peanut in his vacation home, I'd die. I'm always super appreciative of people who take extra time to avoid cross-contamination and will always tip extra because of it. I've been gluten-free for a year now. But I've discovered that my whole family have probably been celiac since birth. Cold sweat smile. I was forced to remove bread and pasta. Too expensive. In the last year or so. So when I had some pepperoni, shockingly, Schneider's, one night, and my entire digestive system immediately protested with an intense burning sensation that lasted all night. I'll happily wait the extra time it takes to wash hands and change gloves, just so I don't have to experience that horrid sensation again. If you saw me order, you would think I was ordering gluten-free for fun. I can eat gluten all day as far as I know. I can even have barley. I'm allergic to wheat though. But I'm not allergic in a deadly way. I was allergic for nearly 20 years. Along with other allergies with the same symptoms, before I figured it out. So I've said it's not going to kill me. Because I feel bad about all the things. It's even possible I'm more sensitive than I realize. One thing the fad dieters have done for celiac people is how much more variety there is for people like most of my family with celiacs. Peak of that craze to me will be the guy that walked into a bakery and proceeded to order a gluten-free bread topped with seitan. Don't know if you guys have other names for it, but it's like tofu made from gluten. And the celiacs in the world, thank you. As someone who avoids gluten at the risk of an IBS flare, I cannot understand why someone would voluntarily eat GF. It sucks. Sure, there are some good GF products out there, ironically thanks to the GF trend. But they're expensive, can be hard to find. And unless you get the good stuff, it's just so dry and or weirdly textured and goes off so quickly. I just don't get it. The GF craze is both a blessing and curse. On the one hand, GF options are more common. On the other hand, GF options are not always celiac friendly. My celiac friend was so excited that our Fav donut shop started offering GF donuts. Just to be sure, she mentioned that she's celiac. As it turns out, while the donuts themselves are GF, they are dunked into the same syrup as regular donuts. So she can't actually have them. So essentially, the donuts were made to cater to people who follow food trends, instead of accommodating celiacs. Have my free award for just being so wholesome and great and taking care of people's needs. My wife has celiac disease. While the people who eat gluten-free because they think it's healthier can be annoying, it's really been a godsend. The amount of gluten-free products available has vastly increased and continues to do so. You, sir, madam, are a hero. My niece is celiac, and cross-contamination is a constant worry. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.